The Communication Department. Known for his groundbreaking work in analyzing media messages and their effects on public policy, on the ownership of media companies, and on the evolving world of journalism in the current 24-hour, 7-day-a-week news cycle, Alex Jones has influenced how we think about one of the most significant aspects of our lives, the media, both here in the United States and around the world. Our understanding of political issues we obtain through the lens of the media. Clearly, public policy and public opinion are influenced by the media. Alex Jones, the Lawrence M. Lombard Lecturer in the Press and Public Policy, serves as the director of the Joan Shorenstein Center on the Press, Politics, and Public Policy at the John F. Kennedy School of Government. Prior to his appointment at Harvard University, he had a distinguished career as a journalist and a writer. From 1983 to 92, he covered the press for the New York Times. He was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in 1987. In 1991, he co-authored with his late wife, Professor Susan E. Tift, the book The Patriarch, The Rise and Fall of the Bingham Dynasty. In 1992, he left the Times to work on another book, The Trust, the Private and Powerful Family Behind the New York Times, also co-authored with Professor Tift, which was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. He has been a Nieman Fellow at Harvard, a host of National Public Radio's On the Media, and host and executive editor of PBS's Media Matters. He's on the boards of the Committee of Concerned Journalists, International Center for Journalists, Foundation of the Society of Professional Journalists, Harvard Magazine, which I'm a subscriber, the Nieman Foundation, Black Mountain Institute, and Harvard University's Institute for Politics, Democracy, and the Internet, among other professional organizations. And most importantly, of course, he has the same name as my eldest grandson. Thank you for joining us today, Alex Jones. We look to you, an inspiring writer and highly knowledgeable journalist, to help us learn more about the topic of your lecture, Media Ethics in a Changing World. I present to you Alex Jones.
Thank you all. First of all, let me apologize to you, please, for being late. It was entirely my fault, and I don't like people to keep me waiting, and I have no doubt that you were a little irritated, but I'm sorry. A heartfelt, sincere apology. One of the things that was not mentioned in that introduction is that I am the fourth generation of a family that owns a newspaper in East Tennessee, where I'm from, a place called Greenville, Tennessee. So my sort of marination in journalism began from the cradle. The newspaper was like another member of our family. My family actually got into the newspaper business through my grandmother, who had been a school teacher. She, this is about at the turn of the century, and she started having, she married my grandfather, who was a lawyer. They began having children, and because in those days it was considered unseemly for a school teacher teaching young children to be pregnant, she was forced to give up her school teaching job. It was thought that you're taking someone's reputation in hand, that you are presenting something as true or not that can shape opinions, that you are taking a position of power by presuming to tell people the truth. Now, when I say the truth, I don't mean an abstract, perfect truth. I don't think anyone believes that journalism ever can do that. What I'm talking about is, though, a practical truth, a truth that is genuinely based on intellectual honesty and a desire not to cook the books about what the truth is. The truth as you can best discover it. That's a great power. It's a great power for persuasion. It's a great power for making people change their minds. I subscribe to the idea that objective journalism, as opposed to polemics and editorials and columnizing and punditry, is much more persuasive if your goal is to change people's minds rather than simply reinforce what they already believe. To change their minds rather than simply reinforce what they believe. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. On the eve of the Iraq War, that was sometime now, it seems a long time away for many of you, I realize. That's kind of a shocking thought to me, but I realize that's the case. But on the eve of the Iraq War, in the early point of it, the invasion of Iraq was very popular. We were coming off 9/11. The president, the vice president, the head of the CIA, the Secretary of State, the Prime Minister of England had all told us that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction that he was poised to use against us. We were smarting from the attack on 9/11. We were eager to right a wrong, and we believed that that could be done in Iraq. And so even though there were voices that said, no, there's not enough proof to go to war, there's not enough basis for us to go to war in a foreign place and embroil ourselves in a terrifically difficult situation militarily and politically. There's not enough reason to do that. That was a very unpopular and minority-held opinion at that time. And the press, at that time as now, was singularly unpopular. Based objective journalism is the most persuasive, in fact, the only persuasive kind of journalism, if you want people, in fact, to change their minds about something. People change their minds about something because they come to believe that what they had believed before was not based on reality. And the only way you persuade them of that, is not by making an argument, but by persuading them with facts that they come to believe represent reality. Now, when I say that all media decisions, I believe, are at heart ethical, I mean ethical in the sense that you have a responsibility when you're a journalist to decide what you report, how you report it, what words you use, what quotes you use, what you leave in, what you leave out, how you structure a story. Those are ethical questions. Those are ethical questions. And I believe that the core value of ethical journalism is a belief in objective journalism. Now, objective journalism is not very fashionable and is increasingly something that many journalists are simply abandoning because they say several things. They say, one, there is no such thing as a completely objective reporting. Two, there's no such thing as certain truth. Three, objectivity is a way of presenting a truth that may be actually a distortion of truth. And you're representing it not as your view and your opinion, which is what some people who are critics of objectivity say reporters inevitably are doing, reporting what their own view is, or at least their reporting is informed by their political ideology. It was also because there was a professional core of journalists that had begun to coalesce, and they wanted to have a self-respecting profession. And so they created a set of norms and standards, codes of ethics, and this objective journalism. And the way objective journalism is like this. It's very much a scientific method. It's like a scientist who goes into a laboratory to do some experiments. No scientist goes into an experimental environment without predicting what the outcome will be. Now, they may not have a good idea, or they may have a good idea, but the point is they are not usually without an idea of how it's going to come out. Prejudices, or biases, or beliefs, your journalism has to be apart from that. It's not subject to or in service of your own political ideology or beliefs. It is in service to the best truth you can find. Responsibility of a newspaper to tell people something that is very important for them to know, and to tell it to them in a timely way so that they may have a chance to do something about it. On the other hand, it is also a citizen's responsibility not to divulge military secrets. When the United States invaded Iraq, the military had a disinformation campaign, a misinformation campaign, calculated to fool the Iraq government that we were going to invade from the sea. In fact, we were not. And the American media at the highest levels knew that, but kept the secret. They kept that secret. But that was a secret that was kept in the context of a policy decision that had been made, a declaration that had been made. There was a conversation. The conversation was over. And so therefore the American media felt that they were able, in good conscience, to keep that secret. And there are other secrets that the American media does not report because they would do jeopardy. They would jeopardize the United States' position in the world, allies, secret agents, whatever. No matter what. Whether you agree with it or don't agree with it. Somebody wants the information to be out. And if you want the information to be out, in these days, in the digital world, you can find somebody to put it out, or you can simply put it out yourself. And if you put it out yourself, then somebody would say, wait a minute, is this true? And what would you do? If I were a journalist and I was reading, if I read on some obscure website that we have been told that an attack on Iran is imminent, I would, if I were the security reporter, I would say, well, if there's going to be an attack, it's going to have to be launched from such and such an air base or such and such a military place, and I would call there and find out whether it was possible to get anybody on the phone. Because if they were about to launch a military attack, they would have shut that down. In other words, I would go out and start reporting, and the story would come out, because it would be something so big and have so many moving parts, and frankly have so many people, I believe, like this room, half and half. It would be divided. There would be a lot of people who would know about it who would probably think it was a bad idea. But the journalistic point, the ethical question, is what is the right place to put the weight of the decision? Is it in the human area, in the citizen area, in the professional area? The professional default is publish what you know. Is how to project the kind of journalism, ethical behavior, and consideration, the thinking, the weighing of choices, the ethical dimension of journalism, how to project that into a digital world, into a world that has a very different set of values in some respects from the one that this objective journalism and the sort of matrix that I described to you was born in. The journalism world I've been describing that I grew up in is one that put accuracy ahead of speed. That's not true anymore. Online, speed trumps accuracy. As you know, you see things reported very quickly, and sometimes, in fact, not infrequently at all, they're wrong. But that's just what the web culture, the digital culture, has come to accept. People would rather have it fast than to have it slower and checked. They'd rather have it fast and corrected. As a result, and may you be spared this, a lot of bad information gets out there. And I don't know whether any of you have ever had that happen, but it's a very unpleasant experience. And it happens because the rush to publish is extreme. That's a new value. Another value is that instead of people trust their friends. Some people trust what a friend sends them on Facebook or what they see on Twitter. The point is that we are all trying to find our way through this minefield of ethical decision-making that is being done or not being done at a level that means that we are forced to consume, and in the case of some of you, manufacture, create journalism that is to be trusted, you hope, and certainly is to be persuasive you hope, is to be perceived as true. If you mislead people, in theory, you will be found out. Well, we know a lot of people who mislead a lot of people all the time.